So now I just want to continue our previous discussion on enzymes 2 in that flowchart. We're going to continue with that flowchart with one more point on enzymes in relation to this flowchart. So if you have room, you can continue it on the side or start a new flowchart. This is just part 2 to the enzymes 2 video, still a part of one flowchart. I was just running out of space in the previous video. So now the last thing I want to talk about let's say the enzymes 2, the second part of enzyme story, is that enzymes are picky. This is a very important concept of metabolism and specifically of enzymatic function. What I mean by this is that enzymes absolutely need, and underline that word, they need an optimal temperature, they need an optimal pH, and let's just say overall they just need an optimal environment to function. They are picky protein molecules with functions that are absolutely necessary but are absolutely dictated by the environment in which they are in. So, what do we know about this? Well, what we have to understand about this idea of needing these optimal conditions is that these conditions are the conditions that specifically are going to make the reaction faster. These conditions are present because these are the conditions that make the reaction faster. Because the reaction is going to be faster if the optimal temperature, optimal pH, and optimal environment is there, because the enzymes are going to be happy, and if the enzymes are happy, they're going to function effectively. And what are they going to do? They speed up chemical reactions, right? But how do they speed them up? Let's remember, they lower the activation energy. Now, if we imagine or induce, let's say, changes in our environment, in the perfect environment that enzymes like, if we put changes in the environment, we actually might denature our protein. And remember, enzymes are proteins. They are very functioning, very fancy proteins able to complete very important functions. What we have to remember is that changes in this perfect environment that enzymes love might denature the protein itself. If you denature the protein, if we remember all the way back in biological molecules, here's that cumulative nature of biology one more time. If you denature a protein, you render it functionless. You lose function from that protein. This denaturing can happen, let's say, if we increase the temperature too much, or if we increase the pH too much, or if the environment becomes very unfavorable and chaotic and is not a good environment for that enzyme will stop functioning, the reactions will be slower, and the overall organism will just not be functioning as great as it should be. Its metabolism will be severely depleted. What we can sort of end this idea of enzymes being picky on is the example that is most dear to us is ourselves, humans. Humans function, human body temperature functions at about 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. And of course we're going to use Celsius because we're talking in science. But that is, let's say, we all remember, the general temperature in Fahrenheit is about 98.7, maybe even 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, one or the other. I always confuse them. Either way, what we have to remember is that enzymes, they themselves function best. What temperature do you think? At normal human body temperature, enzymes within us. If our temperature becomes too low, if we become hypothermic, low temperature, we are going to have reactions that are too slow. Too low, too slow. Very easy to remember. And of course, when we're talking about this, we have to remember too slow reactions. If our temperature becomes too high, if we get a fever, that's going to cause the proteins to denature. Because if our fever is too high for the proteins, if it's maybe at 1 degree more, that could be the difference between an enzyme actually doing its job and an enzyme denaturing completely. That's how picky enzymes are, and that's how specific enzymes are, because that's how they function. That's their nature. So what we have to remember is that for us, normal human body temperature is not only there to, let's say, indicate homeostasis, but it indicates the temperature at which our enzymes, our advanced, super advanced mammalian enzymes work best. So overall, we've ended our enzymes 2 discussion on this idea that enzymes are picky because they need the perfect environment.